It's true that at least 50% of the pitches that we hear are AI. Every vertical is being touched by both software and AI, but that doesn't mean SaaS is dead. It's sort of why now? What's different? Why does the world need another X? What's the non-AI part of your product? Tackle something that's a new problem area. AI is not alone. AI is not a differentiator. Hey, I'm Rajeev Dham. I am a general partner with Sapphire Ventures. Sapphire is a growth stage software, B2B focused software investor. We invest in US, Europe, and Israel. We're managing over $10 billion in capital, partnering with companies like LinkedIn, ExactTarget, DocuSign, Looker, MuleSoft, and more recently companies like Monday.com and Glean, an enterprise AI company. I started my career actually not as an investor, but an investment banker. I worked for Goldman Sachs actually in their financial institutions. Investment banking, your primary role is to advise companies on what you think they should be doing in response to a particular situation, whether it be evaluating M&A or going public or raising some financing. That's your job as an investment banker. But ultimately, even after a couple of years, I realized instead of advising these companies, what would it feel like to actually invest in them and then help really advise them from the board level, having sort of some skin in the game and chips on the table of investing in companies that you're really excited about. There's a lot of uncertainty, but yet it's exciting because these are growth markets. You're redefining a market or creating a new market. I feel like I'm a kid in the candy store and learning all the time from entrepreneurs what they're building, why they're building it, what's on the come, and it's just really exciting to me. On the market, you want to make sure there's a good market size. Ideally, you want to make sure the company is an emerging, especially at our stage, an emerging leader or a next generation leader. One thing we see is category leaders. There's very few markets where there's 3 or 4 players and they're all roughly similar size. Oftentimes, the category leader just sucks the air out of a market because they attract the best employees, they attract the best investors and the most amount of capital. They get the best customers who tell other customers this is the only game in town, and their lead just compounds over time. So we tend to look at not just market size, but positioning with that market. One thing we're looking at recently, given the saturation in the software and SaaS space, is sort of why now? What's different? Okay, maybe there's a company that has an AI angle and that's going to create some accelerated sort of growth over the long term. But what else? Is there something inflecting or something changing? I like to say, what's the energy in the market? What is the end velocity in the market? You may have a big market size, but everyone's happy with what they have, and it's going to be hard to go sell new software into it. What is the energy of adopting a new software and companies coming up for renewal? In that market, I think is critical. Even if your business is scaling nicely, taking a step back and understanding the context of the broader market. Is there an underlying trend or inflection point or a pocket in your competitive space or market space that might be more interesting potentially? And while your company is growing nicely now, there's another company or another pocket of the market that can lead to even higher growth. We call it sort of missing out a little bit on the wave. I think that's critical for some companies, which is incredibly hard to do when your company's performing well and you want to just stick to that lane. But I think it's also important to understand that broader context. And I've seen that multiple times where another company has a slightly different twist or approach, is operating in a slightly different segment or pocket of the market that has more velocity, and you can kind of take off with the whole prize. One thing I look for a lot and I talk to customers about is velocity. What's the velocity of product improvements? What is the velocity of changes that maybe a CEO or a CRO make on the go-to-market team? How quickly are those changes made? How decisive is this management team in making changes? There's this saying, I'm sure someone said it, like grow fast or die. And I think that's kind of true in startup world. There's something about the compounding nature of sort of growing fast. You almost have to hit that escape velocity to make it out as a startup and become some sort of successful company. Because if you don't, the sort of laws of gravity of private SaaS just sort of catch up to you, and that's hard. And there's a lot of pressure. There becomes a lot of competition because people see your company growing fast. So you got to just hit that escape velocity. I think this velocity of decision making that you do across product and go to market in an organization.
What do you do when a potential client says, "We love your product, but it's way too expensive"? Do you give in on discounts right away, or can you confidently defend your price? Hi, I'm Peter An. With over 15 years of sales experience at companies like Google, Dropbox, and Slack, I've obsessed over how to effectively answer questions like this in a way that builds trust. That's why I created Peter An Sales School with EO to equip startup founders and sales professionals with the modern skills to excel in enterprise B2B sales. This online course offers real-life examples and ready-to-use B2B sales frameworks that you can incorporate immediately. From crafting the most effective pitch deck to authentic customer discovery and even negotiation, I walk through how you could do it all. And limited to just 10 students, I'm also offering one-on-one bespoke feedback on assignments. Ready to learn and grow your sales confidence? Check out the link in the description or find me at EO School.
Recent market conditions are interesting, is highly saturated with hundreds, if not thousands, I think the latest stat was, of rather large, maybe 30 million to kind of 300 million ARR enterprise software SaaS businesses, from infrastructures to application businesses. There's a plethora of them that are out there in the private markets. Every single category is saturated and also getting funded, by the way, at the very early stages. So if you're a founder tackling something, I would say really push yourself to say, why does the world need another X? Or tackle something that's a new problem area. Tackle something that's, never been done before, or in a vertical that hasn't been touched before. Because by the way, the other trend I'm seeing is every vertical is being touched by both software and AI now. Ask yourself the why now. Why is this important? Why does the world need another one of these companies? Because ultimately, investors are looking for that as well. What's the difference in this narrative? It's true that at least 50% of the pitches that we hear are AI already, maybe even 60, 70%. But that doesn't mean SaaS is dead. To me, those are still SaaS companies. AI is not alone. AI is not a differentiator. It may use AI as a technology enabler, but AI is not the product. AI is just a small kind of piece of the product that they're leveraging in really creative ways. But like I said, if AI is your full product, there's probably something wrong and we probably won't invest. You have to have an approach, some non-AI technology and integrations, workflows that are different in and around that I think are critical. And so that's what people are looking for. I invested in Monday.com in 2018, 19. What was interesting to me about Monday.com was you had two founders, Eran and Roy, who really just had incredible conviction in their own direction and vision. Well, one, they presented to me and a group of my colleagues, and it was that night, actually, I booked a red-eye over to Tel Aviv. I flew out there to spend the whole day with them, and they were shocked and surprised. There was a plethora of companies here in Silicon Valley that were attacking the same market with maybe more interesting Silicon Valley logos as customers. But Monday and Roy and Eran just had a different way of doing things. I just saw that they just had true belief in their vision, and it was very well thought out why they would succeed. It was that founder sort of conviction I saw that really left an impression on me that was just really unique in our time together. I think people sometimes don't quite get that. They think growth stage is just very formulaic, everything's sort of working and you price the company and you try to get money in. There's still a lot that has to work out even at later stages, and at Monday.com there was a lot that still had to work out, but there's something that excited me, there's something that stuck with me about that company and about that meeting that leaves me that energized to sleep 3-4 hours a night for multiple nights. And to me, that's now become a signal. I thought it used to be a flaw. Maybe it still is, but now it's a signal to me. And that happened with Monday, and that happened with many other businesses since. Our business is pretty simple in some ways. It's investing in people you like and you admire that just move you in some way. I think every investor needs to adapt to the entrepreneur and founder that they're working with. I think